In the shadow of Mount Yotei, in the wild and unforgiving lands of 1603 Ezo, a legend is born. This is Ghost of Yotei, a game that does more than tell a story, it drags you into it. It lets you breathe the cold air of the frontier, feel the weight of vengeance, and experience the cost of becoming a legend. At the center of Ghost of Yotei is Atsu, a woman forged by tragedy and shaped by a world that gave her no mercy. 16 years ago, her family was murdered by the infamous Yotei 6, a group of powerful and morally corrupted samurai who ruled through fear and violence. Left for dead, Atsu survived, carrying on not only the scars of her injuries, but the heavier burden of grief, rage, and the singular purpose of revenge. The brilliance of the story is in its non-linear approach. You are free to hunt the Yotei 6 in any order, and each confrontation is layered with narrative meaning. Each villain is tied to a different aspect of Atsu's past and to the broader corruption of Ezo. As you progress, you uncover fragments of the world's history, villages abandoned, families displaced, and the remnants of a frontier society struggling to survive. The story also explores identity and perception. Atsu is whispered about as an onryo, a ghostly spirit of vengeance. The villagers fear her, the enemies dread her, and yet she is flesh and blood. This duality is central to the narrative. The game constantly asks, is Atsu a human avenger, or has she become something more than that? Flashbacks, environmental storytelling, and character interactions flesh out this question, giving the player an intimate understanding of her trauma, her motivations, and the slow erosion of her innocence. Beyond revenge, the story touches on morality and consequences. Each choice, whether sparing an enemy or completing a mission in a particular way, impacts how the world perceives her. Atsu's journey is a meditation on how a person becomes a legend, how fear shapes reality, and what is lost along the path of obsession. Atsu's journey is a meditation on how a person becomes a legend, how fear shapes reality, and what is lost along the path of obsession. The world of Ezo is more than a backdrop, it's a living, breathing entity. You have snow-capped peaks tower above dense forests, icy rivers carved through forgotten villages, windswept paths whisper of danger at every turn. Every environment is meticulously crafted to evoke isolation, tension, and beauty, making exploration feel meaningful. Players are encouraged to engage deeply in the world. Side missions are just distractions. They provide context to Atsu's journey, reveal moral dilemmas, and reward careful planning. Bounties, rescue missions, and crafting tasks feed into the game's economy, upgrading weapons, armor, and abilities. Exploration isn't simply about seeing the sights, it's about surviving, adapting, and understanding the consequences of your actions. Freedom is a key element. You can choose stealth, you can use shadows in the terrain to strike silently, or you can face enemies head-on, relying on skill and reflexes. The game's design ensures that the world reacts to your choices. Villagers respond differently depending on your reputation, enemies adapt to your tactics, and environmental hazards can be exploited for a strategic advantage. There's a tangible sense of agency, making every decision feel consequential and deeply personal. Combat in Ghost of Yotei is precise, deliberate, and visceral. Swordplay feels weighty, each swing carries impact, each parry requires perfect timing, and dodging at the right moment can mean the difference between life and death. The game rewards observation and patience. Rushing and recklessly is punished, while strategic thinking, use of the environment, and careful planning are rewarded with cinematic and satisfying results. Every encounter with the Yotei 6 is more than a boss fight, it's a narrative climax. Each villain has a unique fighting style, reflecting their personality and backstory. One may rely on brute strength and overwhelming attacks, another might use speed, deception, or environmental manipulation. These confrontations are tests not only of skill, but of understanding the story itself, how Atsu's past connects to each antagonist, and how her decisions shape the outcome. Upgrades and progression are meaningful. As you explore Ezo, you collect resources to improve weapons and armor, gaining new abilities that open fresh combat possibilities. This growth mirrors Atsu's narrative journey. You become stronger, more precise, and more capable of confronting the moral and physical challenges that lie ahead. Atsu is a compelling protagonist precisely because she is flawed and human. She's driven by vengeance, but she's also haunted by doubt, guilt, and the loneliness of being feared as a legend before she's understood. The game carefully develops her character through storytelling, dialogue, and environmental cues, allowing players to see her vulnerability and her determination side by side. Her arc is a meditation on obsession. The more she pursues vengeance, the more she risks losing her humanity. Yet the game balances this darkness with moments of subtle reflection, interactions with allies, brief respites in the wilderness, and glimpses of the family she lost. By the end, Atsu is not just a playable character, she is someone you have walked alongside, someone whose journey leaves a lasting impression. Ghost of Yotei is steeped in themes of revenge, trauma, morality, and legend making. The tone is cinematic, reflective, and at times times somber, perfectly complementing the narrative and gameplay. It asks difficult questions. How far will you go for vengeance? When does survival become obsession? At what point does humanity give away to myth? The world reinforces these themes visually and orally. The frozen peaks, windswept forests, and abandoned villages create an atmosphere of isolation and danger. The soundtrack underscores the weight of each decision and the tension of every confrontation. Every element, such as combat, exploration, story, sound, and visuals, works together to immerse the player in a world that is both breathtaking and unforgiving. Now I want to talk a little bit about the graphics and the visual design of Ghost of Yotei. If there's one word that defines the visual identity of Ghost of Yotei, it's contrast. The game's world, the harsh frozen frontier of 1603 Ezo, is a visual symphony of opposites. Light and shadow, purity and decay, and beauty and violence. Where Ghost of Tsushima captured the golden romance of Japan's mainland, fields of swaying pampas grass sunset over crimson leaves, and that painterly sense of serenity, even amid chaos. Ghost of Yotei shifts the palette entirely. This is not the poetic calm of Tsushima's autumn. This is a raw brutality of winter's rule. The mountains of Yotei dominate the horizon like silent gods. Not just background art, they define the tone. Snow falls endlessly, softening the ground while concealing danger beneath its pristine surface. The sky shifts from a cold, washed-out gray to a deep violet twilight, bathing the land in colors that feel both real and surreal. Every texture, every flake of snow, every gust of wind feels intentional. When the storm rolls in, visibility narrows, sound dampens, and the world feels suffocating. When clouds break and pale sunlight hits the frost, it's breathtaking, but fleeting. The land of Ezo doesn't want to be admired, it wants to test you. This isn't a world built for tourists, it's built for survivors. Ghost of Yotei uses lighting not just for realism, but for storytelling. Torches flicker in abandoned villages, their light bouncing off frozen walls that still bear the scars of violence. At night, the moon becomes a silent witness to the bloodshed. It glows, painting long shadows across the snow. Compared to Ghost of Tsushima's painterly lighting, which was soft, romantic, inspired by Japanese ukiyo-e woodblock art, I hope I'm saying that right. Yotei's lighting is cold, almost cinematic in its restraint. It feels closer to the mood of a survival film than a samurai epic. Every ray of light has purpose. It draws the eye, highlights the isolation, and reinforces the emotional tone of the story. The developers clearly understood that silence can be as powerful as spectacle. In Yotei, empty spaces carry weight. Fog swallowing distant tree lines, snow erasing tracks after a few minutes, and wind howling through shattered temples. You're not just looking at the environment, you feel it closing in around you. Every inch of Ghost of Yotei's environment tells a story. Collapsed shrines buried under snow hint at a forgotten faith. Bloodstained footprints across frozen lakes tell of a desperate survival. Charred villages contrast sharply with the stillness of the wilderness. Remnants of human ambition crushed by nature and greed. It's environment storytelling on a subtle level. It's less romantic than Tsushima. It's more tragic and more grounded. While Tsushima leaned on visual poetry using bright color and beauty to offset violence, Yotei strips that away. What remains is something raw, tactile, and deeply immersive. You can almost feel the texture of the world. The brittle crunch of snow underfoot, the creak of wooden bridges, frozen stiff, the shimmer of distant fires against an endless white expanse. So to conclude, Ghost of Yotei and Ghost of Tsushima feel like spiritual opposites, born from the same samurai soul. Tsushima celebrates beauty in defiance of violence, every frame a painting, every battle a ballet. Yotei, in contrast, embraces the violence of beauty itself, cold, indifferent, yet mesmerizing. Where Tsushima invites you to wander and reflect, Yotei forces you to endure and adapt. Both are hard, both are breathtaking, but Yotei's power lies in its restraint. It's not about visual splendor, it's about atmosphere, weight, and emotional truth. In Ghost of Yotei, beauty isn't comfort, it's a reminder of how small, fragile, and human you really are. Ghost of Yotei is a masterclass in cinematic, story-driven action. It combines deeply layered narrative, immersive exploration, precise combat, and psychological complex characters into a cohesive, unforgettable experience. It's not just a game about revenge, it's a meditation on survival, trauma, and the cost of becoming a legend. For fans of immersive worlds, cinematic storytelling, and morally complex action games, Ghost of Yotei is an essential experience. It stays with you long after the screen goes dark, challenging both your skills and your conscience.